see it's getting darker and darker, and there's just no way right now for these drivers to know exactly what's going to happen.
These guys are going to have to be really, really careful and tiptoe around the track until it's either
not even 10 minutes into this race, and I feel like we've got enough strategy going on for a whole event, but still a long, long way to go.
There's Yellowstone, there's Yosemite, but for racing fans and for Grid Life's Elkhart Classic, the destination is Road America, the National Park of Speed.
Free ride in the front of the field here. Look at Emil Tab up the inside for the race lead. We head down to the first corner.
Guys have no idea what they're coming into. Look at this field. They're 2 wide, 3 wide, a couple places slipping.
Side by side for the race lead, 54-48 through 3 and 4, working lap number 60, 110 laps to go. Yusuf Ghali power move to the bottom of the racetrack, making the short way work. They're going to touch down the hill.
This will be a great run for Fuller here.
Yeah, typically ran off the track in the final quarter. That'll have Fuller to get a massive.
Here he comes.
Does he have a look?
Oh, big block there by Sanfilippo. Into the grass goes Ben Fuller through turn 1, and Sanfilippo hangs on. He's loose. No! And he crashes hard in the exit of turn number 2. Don't try him here, boys. They're going to do it. Briscoe backs out. They touch. They're going to crash. Briscoe going to slam the attenuator hard into the wall. And Tarantessin hits him as well. And big damage on these cars. That's a huge
Number 4, people are struggling for grip, going out of every single lane, even trying to then run. It's getting really insane.
Powered by AWS for the Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli at the Indianapolis 8-hour. We are 7 hours and 18 minutes into this 8-hour event.
John Miller way deep on the brakes to the inside of turn number 1 and 2. The spin, the 3 car gets turned around in the front of the car.
James Houghton looking for a place to go, but he's got Austin Cobb to the inside. A bit of a gap behind. I think that's about 15th or 16th spot as they come out of turn 3. Big slide for this.
Getting a run. He's got it. Going to be a drag racing line. Final corner. Checkered flag waving. Here they come. At Virginia National Raceway. To the line. Thompson, Darling, door to door. Banging doors. Fender to fender. I can't believe what we just saw.
The Outsider Racing League chase began a week ago in Talladega, Alabama, and the points were shaken up as a result. But this week we head to a road course, which is just as unpredictable in every way, just as a restrictor plate track was last week in Talladega. This week, Sonoma Raceway is the place that we're heading to, but not the normal layout that we normally run, which is the short course here at Sonoma. We're running the long course with the carousel, a totally different fight that we're going to have to tackle this evening for the Outsider Racing League. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman for the second race of the Outsider Racing League chase. There are 3 rounds remaining after this. Tom, Sonoma Raceway is a very technical, slow circuit, which is very well suited to sports cars, but not so much the stock cars we're going to see here tonight. Rear grip is going to be at a premium.
Sure, Kyle. And last time I was here with you, we were at Road Atlanta, which is obviously not a NASCAR Cup track, but I actually enjoy that we're running a non-NASCAR layout of Sonoma Raceway here tonight. So instead of taking the chute through between turns 4 and 5, we're going to run the sports car layout. And the key for me, that makes this race all about patience and tire management. As you've mentioned before, these tires do not take very well to slip angle. They don't take very well to sliding at all. And we've added, 4, 5, 6 extra corners to this track, which means the risk of slipping, sliding is way higher.
So Sears Point, California, population 11,300. This racetrack has about 12 corners in its normal configuration. 12 turns, 2.5 miles or thereabouts. Lap times in the high 130s in these cars, Tom. 750 horsepower, low spoilers, so you're not going to have a whole lot of rear-end grip. 160 feet of elevation change over the course of the lap, and these cars are very, very heavy, 3,500 pounds with the driver, so you're going to feel a lot of that weight disappear every time you go over a crest. Qualifying is already underway here, and one of the drivers that we're going to have to keep an eye on is Jeff Wright in this number 48 car. He was the winner the last time we went to Sonoma in a fuel mileage race with Martin Sproul. Sproul is not here tonight, but Jeff Wright is looking to repeat the magic that he had a few weeks ago. Already see the slip and the tire marks he left on the racetrack, Tom. That tells me it's going to be a very slippery night.
I was going to say, if this is his outlap or first flyer, the tires are already begging for mercy. You see how long that carousel is? It's kind of like a more painful, if you wanted to look at the outer loop at Watkins Glen but make it less fun, that's the carousel here. So it's super blind on entry, as are a lot of corners here. We'll kind of talk about that as well. I think passing is going to be at a premium, and again, a lot of things can come down to tire management and possibly really mistake management.
Heading through the S's now, and typically at Sonoma, you're hammering curbs in the stock cars here. The curbing in the sports car section, the longer section, though, is pretty high in some places, especially in the hairpins, and you're not really going to want to hammer those curbs a whole lot because as soon as you land, you're going to start bouncing the car up and down, and it's not going to be conducive to finding grip on corner exits. So you're going to have to be a lot more careful over the curbing than you would be on the short course, which isn't quite as big of a deal. So Jeff Wright comes through the hairpin here on the far side of the racetrack, will throttle back up, trying to beat AJ Stravato in the number 33 car, who currently has provisional pole with a 136.190 for Jeff Wright across the line. And that is going to be a 136.821, so he will not go faster. He will stay in second for now. Other drivers on the racetrack you got to keep an eye on. Adam Cabot in the 77 was our winner from Road America earlier in the year. He's running a part-time schedule, not in championship contention. That lets him be a little bit more creative with strategy, and I think tire strategy and fuel strategy is going to be a big point tonight.
He's waiting to make sure that he gets out onto the track, maybe after seeing what some of the other times are. I think due to the tire management at this place, and in general on these cars, the shootout really here is one lap, meaning the qualifying run. You saw just how loose Jeff Wright's car was on the second flyer. That's what we got to watch about half of. And he said P2 behind Stravato, but I'm pretty sure it's Bailey Turner, who was the winner from Talladega, that's third, and that driver kind of alluded to it. The super speedway restrictor plate races are kind of a crapshoot. You have a lot more control over your pace here at a road course like Sonoma, and it's good to see that driver is consistent between the two, it looks like.
Yeah, Bailey Turner out of California. This is a sort of a home race for him. I think he's really excited about getting the opportunity to come to a home track and run well here, and he typically does. Now, Turner doesn't normally run all that great on road courses. He's not bad. Typically runs 5th through 10th, but this racetrack is special to him. I think he'll run really well here tonight. The 77 Adam Cabot, I don't think is actually going to make a qualifying attempt. The driver we have to watch, though, Bryce Calusa, was the one that won at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta when we announced this series earlier in the year. So maybe this is a driver to watch, but Road Atlanta and Sonoma are two very different racetracks.
Sure, and he was P2 in qualifying or in practice just before we went live on the stream. Second to Bailey Turner. So Turner, who sits third in qualifying, was fastest in practice. I totally agree that 24 is going to be quick. But the 20 was really, really good. I don't think that car was on pole at Road Atlanta, but he was really good in the longer run and managed the race in a way that we actually didn't think he was going to make it to the end. We thought he was going to run out of fuel, and then he just cruised on through to take the win. So Calusa in the 20 car that we're watching now in qualifying, he's got the road course stuff figured out, and that's kind of the strategy that you're talking about because tires and fuel are going to matter so much today.
Well, with qualifying almost complete, a handful of drivers have made a qualifying effort. Only 12 have put down a time. Let's have a look here at the track map for tonight's event. The Sonoma Raceway's long course, about 2.5 miles here, Tom. Take me through a lap here at Sonoma. It's a twisty one.
Well, you can see already how much elevation there is along with the corners, but just above the text Sonoma Raceway, that's the front, quote-unquote, straight, and then it shoots straight uphill into the horizon of turns 1 and 2. Turn 2 is that right-hander that leads you into another climb at turn 3. You crest over 3 into turn 4, and that's what brings you into the sports car road course section. You rise down and then back up through the drop of the carousel, that's turn 5, and then a long shoot up the runoff of a drag strip, actually, into a heavy braking zone, and then the S's. And those S's are going to be a big patience game as well. With how many times this track changes direction through the first majority of it, passing is going to be at a premium, but the passing opportunity that we should keep our eye on is down at turn 11 after that longer shoot off of the S's, deep on the brakes, and you can pull off not only a dive on the way in, but an over-under on the way out.
So we mentioned the passing opportunity at turn number 11. That typically at Sonoma, regardless of the layout that you run, is really the passing zone. However, running the short course of this racetrack actually gives you another passing opportunity in turn number 7. I don't think that opportunity exists quite as well now. It's very difficult to get a run out of turn 5, out of the carousel, and execute a pass in turn 6. It's a double apex right-hander, a little bit tricky to get these cars woe down the wheel hop that they experience. I think the best place that you're going to have a chance to pass is turn 11, which is down 1 from the short course here, in my opinion. So we'll see how it races. We've actually never seen a stock car race on SimTV utilize this layout before.
And I agree that down into turn 7, it's tough to get a run if someone's clean off of the carousel, but it's going to be really, really easy to get the back end loose off of the carousel down towards that braking zone at turn 7. So if all is equal, it's not a great passing opportunity, but if someone slips up coming off that carousel, it's all fair game.
And having a look here at turns 1 and 2, the track kind of sweeps to the left uphill over a blind crest here. This track narrows down quite a bit in that section, and you're going to be running too wide up the hill. Got to be cautious. The curbing here in turn number 3 is pretty tall, but you want to get all your tires up on top of that stuff, jump these curbs. This is the great section for NASCAR cars to get all that air and help this car rotate. But watch the braking zone heading into turn 4 we're looking at right now. That will come up on you very quickly.
It does come up really quick, and I can't emphasize enough. I've gotten to go here for a couple of times in real life how extreme the elevation is, and I know it's a cliche we say that the TV doesn't do it justice. This place blew me away after almost a decade of going to road courses. How elevation influences this place. It's also one of the best spectator tracks in the country. So if you're near Sonoma Raceway in real life in NorCal, absolutely hit up the place because you can see almost everything from everywhere.
It's a great racetrack. I got the opportunity to go with World Challenge a couple months ago, and it surprised me by how nice it was in general. It was one of those tracks that I didn't really connect with or think it was going to be a super high-level facility. I went there. It was like Circuit of the Americas. It was really cool, felt really neat. It was a great opportunity. So we'll head down to the racetrack here in just a moment. We'll have a pace lap to sort everything out, but let's roll through our starting grid here, Tom. On the front row, it's going to be A.J. Stravato in the number 33, and the defending winner of this race, Jeff Wright in the number 48, has some work to do in the points.
Just behind them in row 2, Bailey Turner leads the chase right now alongside Jeremy Miller in the 30. We'll start 4th.
In row number 3, starting on the inside in 5th, will be the 31 of Brandon Bowers. Ran pretty well at Road Atlanta. He'll try to do that again today. Ryan Carwile, recent winner from Charlotte, rolls off 6th.
Yeah, and Carwile's good on road courses. Sam Devontier in the 99 will start 7th alongside Joshua Banks in the 36th on that 4th row.
In row number 5, Clifton Cockrell in the number 16, and Ben Laughter in 10th place in that number 64. He'll start on the outside of row number 5.
And then on the 6th row inside is Zach Halpern in the 26, Angelo Ronis in the 29 alongside.
In row number 7, starting 13th, Alex Bell from Sim Motorsports in his Toyota Camry. Corey Steinhauser rolls off 14th in the number 65 car.
And in the 8th row, it's going to be Bryce Calusa, a driver to watch, but no qualifying time, I don't believe, in the 20. And then Adam Cabot, another driver to watch in the 77, going to charge through together.
Casey Licata, the other Sim Motorsports driver, starts in 17th. Matthew Close rolls off 18th in the number 92 as the cars grid up here, Tom, row number 10.
Robert Gaba is going to be in the number 75. That is row 10 inside and outside. Jonathan Hernandez, who sits 2nd in the points, I believe, after Talladega.
Last couple rows here, Caleb Weekly starts in 21st in the number 10. David Mott Jr. will not start this race. Zach Floyd, however, will roll off in 22nd. So only 11 rows. The field size is a little bit down from what it normally is here. We were over 30 last week at Talladega. This is a challenging combination. This is a frustrating combination. You're going to want to get on the throttle. The car is not going to let you, Tom. So rear tire conservation is going to be, I think, the biggest point of contention tonight. As we roll off here, let's have a look at the weather information. This track gets so hot here in California, and it's not that hot yet, but 78 degrees air temp, 82 degrees track temp. I expect this to climb, and the rear tires, as soon as they get hot and greasy, they will not regrip.
And that's going to add another factor into the already challenging conditions for this one. If that track is indeed going to get hotter and hotter throughout the day as the sun beats down, that's even less grip available. And the way I think about this with the tires on these cars, every slip, every slide is kind of like a life, and you only have so many to have. So every time you see someone have to dab some opposite lock, slide the car, they've lost one of those critical opportunities to utilize that grip later.
Jeff Wright in that number 48 car made it into the playoffs. He didn't have a great season the last time around. We didn't go to Sonoma last season. The previous season was the season that he had wins all over the place. Won at Silverstone. We ran a race there. We ran a race here at Sonoma. He won that as well. So Jeff Wright is in a great position tonight to capitalize on the momentum that he carries at road tracks like this. He's much better at the technical circuits. Doesn't seem to fare as well on the kind of more aggressive tracks like Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen. Doesn't seem to do very well there, but at tracks like this, Jeff Wright gets in the zone, and he's so good at taking care of those tires. Great overhead shot here as we head onto the drag strip here at Sonoma. This is a weird run down because you kind of kick to the left, and then there's that braking zone to the hairpin. I talked earlier about wheel hop. What is that? If you have too much rear brake bias, these cars get light in the rear. Stand the car up on the nose when you go into the corner, and the rear tires will begin to hop like basketballs. And once that starts to happen, the only way to get it to stop doing that is to release a little bit of brake pressure. But if you don't do that, you're just going to spin out and take somebody else with you. So you have to be very cautious. You're probably only going to be using about 40 to 50% of the pedal travel in these cars. You're not going to be hammering them a whole lot. There's not a lot of downforce to help you either.
It's almost like the inverse of a brake lockup, but it's the same solution. You got to come off the brake pedal, which makes it really challenging to manage that. The way I think about it almost is like in a normal road course situation, you grab downshifts and use the engine braking to help you slow the car down. These are almost opposite. You delay your downshifts until the very last moment to avoid the opportunity for wheel hop, and then you just grab the final downshifts right before turn.
Yes, and this is going to punish you. If you're not rev matching properly, it's going to punish you. These cars are H-pattern 4-speed dog boxes. You can get away with a lot, but you need to make sure that your engine engine matching, or you're rev matching your engine so that you're not spinning tires or locking up your transmission. Heading through the final corner, turn number 11, and getting throttled up for a 35-lap event here. This is a short race, about 56 minutes from start to finish, but it's going to matter how much you conserve those tires. Green flag flies, and we're racing in Sonoma, California, outside of Racing League Chase Race number 2. The championship is on. Drivers on the ticker on the left-hand side of the screen with the yellow numbers are your Chase competitors. The silver drivers are the ones who are just looking for victories.
Really early green flag, actually. Mostly single file throughout the top 10 until back here, the 64 and the 16 side by side, and the rest of the field trying to work themselves out. But this is really important, I think, for the top group to get single file like this, because look at how much time these guys are losing. Look at that gap form right in front of our eyes as they work their way through turn 3 and now into the challenging sports car section.
Adam Cabot in that 77, the winner from Road America. He's right in front of Calusa, the Road Atlanta winner. So a couple of our road course victors are buried in traffic here early. They've got a lot of work to do. There's a bit of shuffling going on in the background. Caleb Weekly and Casey Lacatus getting real tight together. There's the one Hernandez. He's second in the points, Tom. This is not a great start for the one car.
No, that was tough and almost 3 wide for a moment. But look at the fall away down through the carousel, under the chute, into that drag strip section. But up at the front, things are really close. A little lockup for the 33 Stravato, or maybe from the 48. The 48 is a little bit wide, and the 24 has to look at the back.
AJ Stravato pulling away Ryan Carwile side by side with Brandon Bowers in the 31 car. They're going to run through the S's door to door. Now they're going to single file out. That's dicey there. Now they're through. Tires are a little bit cold, but in the Cup cars, Tom, the tires are the best the first lap.
Yeah, they're already past their prime as far as I'm concerned. With Carwile looking a little racy on the back of the 31, and Carwile is pretty good on road courses. He's good in the long haul as well. But up at the front, it's a 4-car breakaway. The 24 Bailey Turner showed the nose for just a moment. And then the rest of the field, look at him pile down into turn 11.
There's a 64, Ben Laughter making a pass on Joshua Banks in the number 36. The very first race that SimTV ever broadcasted back when it was called the Virtual Racing League, Joshua Banks was one of the drivers in the top 3 fighting at Watkins Glen. He's a pretty good road racer. Has some work to do today, rolling 8th. That's where he started, but a couple more places to gain. Though Jeff Wright is hounding that 33 car. Both of these drivers Chase competitors. All 5 of the front runners are in the Chevrolet Camaro. Again, all the cars are fundamentally identical, but a very Chevy heavy field here today. And rolling into this tight section, Tom, heading up over this crest, the car is going to get light. And this is a big issue for locking up the front tires as well. As you come over the crest of the hill, there's not a lot of weight on those front tires.
Yeah, it's definitely a big management game. You saw the 33 wiggle just a little bit as the as the car bottomed out in the compression before the rise up to the entry of that carousel. But he managed it well. Didn't let it get away from him too much. Here they're just kind of easing the car into the corner. The 48 runs a little bit wide again. I almost think that's a little bit more of the setup, and the visuals here are really tough too, not only because of the elevation change, but these cars are so big you can't really see the turn-in points and the apex points as well as you'd like to. Looks like Bailey Turner maybe a little bit of a slip-up, and Jeremy Miller is hounding the back of that 24.
Jeremy Miller statistically hasn't done all that great on road courses here, so I'm kind of surprised to see him all over the back of the 24. He made an attempt to pass in turn 6, but we saw the 48 run wide. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The inside's pretty bumpy there, and if you run a little wider, you can find a bit more smooth pavement in these cars and just try to keep the rear end from skipping and hopping all over the place. Here's the 77 at Cabot through the 16 at Cockrell, and now Calusa turns up underneath.
I was going to say 2 of those drivers we talked about watching, and Cabot had gained a little bit of an advantage, but Calusa comes back. Whoa, a big wiggle on one of the upshifts, grabs 4th gear, tacks it sideways, but gathers it up, and now Calusa slots it behind Cabot. The bad news is they're still only 11th and 12th, or 10th and 11th.
On the binders into turn 1, you can hear, turn 2 rather, you can hear how gentle they're being. They're really not using a whole lot of brake in that left-right combination. They're basically just coasting up the hill, letting gravity slow them down, and being very gentle right here. And that's going to be key. Big wiggle by the 77 up the road. He is hanging that car out on its tailpipe. Well, he's off of the dirt too a little bit. Here comes the 20 now into the inside. He might make this pass complete.
A lot more time going side by side than they will if they get a single file, but Cabot's going to fight it. Calusa gets stuck around the outside. The track falls away and then catches you on the compression at the bottom. Calusa keeps the nose there, but not quite enough of momentum around the outside, and unfortunately, a corner like that really requires a lot of downforce, a lot of mechanical grip, and these cars at these speeds don't have either.
A big push wide for the 77. He's way out beyond the edge of the racetrack. AJ Stravato up front, still dealing with Jeff Wright. My interest was piqued by Caleb Weekly resetting back to the pit lane. Not exactly sure if he's had an issue or if he just found himself, well, he did have an issue. Here's a look at this. Coming up over the crest of turn 3, I think he's going to get wide here, no?
Now, you mentioned how quickly this braking zone comes up. He's going to just kind of bail out of it to keep the front from locking. It finally locks just before the dirt, but decides that this one's not worth salvaging, I guess.
Checking back in midway through the field, there's Ryan Carwile in the 71. You mentioned his road course prowess. He won an oval a few weeks ago at Charlotte Motor Speedway in a very exciting finish, kind of banging doors through the last lap. Very, very good race. Tonight so far started 6th, running 6th at the moment, and catching the 31 of Brandon Bowers, so this battle could heat up here shortly.
Yeah, I would say more hounding than catching. He's been there the entire time staring at the Menards on the back of that 31, but we see Carwile in a lot of leagues that I both commentate and race. He actually joined us on the Sim TV League Challenge and raced with Grid Life iRacers. I was also racing there. He was the only one that had a clue what was going on the oval. He had to teach us what we were doing, so he's good on both. But I think I consistently see Carwile very good in the longer runs. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see him work his way towards the podium, which I'm pretty sure last time I was here with you for this series, he did so at Road Atlanta.
I believe that's correct. You see him close there in the carousel. It's such a condensing corner. There's really only one line you can run through there effectively. Up out front, though, AJ Stravato has not gotten away from Jeff Wright. Wright is right there on his tailpipe as they head through turn 7.
That's a slip up from the 33. He lost a little bit of the resources that are those tires and gets it pointed the right way again. You see the momentum the 33 carries through the S's is good, climbs a little bit of the curbing. The 48 looks very patient right now, though, and I think that's a good sign.
This is not a long race by any stretch, but these tires are going to feel awful by the end of lap 10. And if you're not taking care of them now, it's going to hurt you later. You saw Jeff Wright kind of hanging out a little bit in turn number 10. See, he's going to send a cone go flying there. No harm, no foul. Don't want to get one of those things trapped up underneath your car. That is not a fun experience.
Going for the cutting distance route over rolling speed, because the rolling speed doesn't really work on these tires very much. So both drivers tight and tidy off of turn 11, and they're starting to break away pretty solidly from Bailey Turner and Jeremy Miller. Miller's still hounding the back of Turner, but up at the front, that 48 is not going anywhere. I think Jeff Wright is just waiting for the opportunity to be gifted the lead when Stravato maybe makes a mistake, trying to pressure him a little bit there, pinching his entry into turn 3, and then backs out to just make sure he can keep rolling that nice smooth speed. Here's a look.
Good run coming over the crest at turn 3 into turn 4, but not really a passing opportunity here. It's a little bit too tight to make that happen. But these guys will be friendly with each other. They're very cordial. They're teammates as well, so they will behave likely. But I don't think Jeff Wright's going to sit back there too long because Bailey Turner's running some pretty competitive lap times as well, as is Jeremy Miller. So I wouldn't linger too long. Those other two aren't too far back.
The other long play here on the road courses, which I'm not as well versed on the oval strategies, but if you can ride out just a little bit longer than the guy in front of you, if you're in Jeff Wright's position, for example, AJ Stravato pits for fuel and tires finally, and Jeff Wright will have the opportunity to put in a really quick lap, and that might be able to put him back in front, basically pick up positions on the pit lane as you would on the oval. But saw mistakes starting to happen. Jeremy Miller ran really wide, and I think Bailey Turner actually released the brake pedal to avoid getting hit.
Back in with Adam Cabot in the 77. Bryce Calusa has started to drive away from him. I thought the 77 was going to be a driver to beat tonight, but so far hasn't really had the pace of the 20. If you had to compare a road course winners from the season, I think Calusa's got the upper hand right now. And closing in on Ben Lafter, who's had a very quiet night so far, but that's what you want to have. Having a look into turn 11, just getting out of the mirrors, Tom, that's a distraction tactic more than anything.
The biggest problem that all these drivers are facing is where to go with your speed. You know, if you're saying the 20 car is the fastest on the racetrack, passing opportunities are few and far between, and he may just be kind of stuck waiting for that opportunity. Listen to him controlling the throttle at the bottom of the hill before they climb all the way up that massive climb to turn 2.
Closes a little bit in the braking zone here. I think the closest battle that we have on the racetrack is still for the top spot. And I think these guys are feeling relatively comfortable. They're controlling the race right now, but Jeff Wright does look like he's a little bit impatient now. He's starting to creep up on the back of that 33 car and putting more and more pressure on him. I don't think he's going to sit back here for too much longer. If there's a mistake out of that 33, he's going to pounce.
No, and the 48 definitely looks a little tighter and tidier in general. You see that he's glued down to the dirt. Doesn't lose any momentum off the corner, but is just nice and tidy everywhere. And that's going to bode well for the tires on that 48 as well. The 33 has been pretty much picture perfect, but has had a couple of slips here and there. And as I mentioned, the resources go away really quick. Look who's lurking in the background a little bit more. Bailey Turner has turned up the wick and is starting to approach that battle for the lead.
Meanwhile, here's a pass for position. There's Bryce Calusa on the outside of turn number 7, and he's going to complete that pass heading into the S's. Another battle going on behind them is Clifton Cockle and Angelo Ronis Ronis will move through into 12th, but I wanted to point out Kalusa making the move on the outside lane. That's why I wasn't so surprised to see the 48 run wider through turn 6 and 7. You can actually carry a lot more speed taking that wider radius and avoid those very sharp curves. So I think maybe there's something to taking that wider line over there.
Definitely an impressive move, and it's clearly the 20 is quicker. As
Woo.
now the 77 lunges up the inside for turn 11. And the problem here is you got to get the wheel straight to accelerate away. The 64 now inherits the inside line for the front straightaway through turn 12 across the start-finish line, but the 77 is going to keep it and gain that spot.
It's a lot tighter than it looks. You're heading through there, and these cars don't have a lot of downforce. And pretty much every other car that you'd see at Sonoma, that's just easy flat. You just get back to the throttle and drive along straightaway. In the Cup cars, you're lifting to make that corner, especially when you're side by side.
And now look at both of those drivers. The 20 and the 77 have driven away from Ben Lafter, who was basically not necessarily doing anything wrong by holding them up, but didn't have the pace to keep with them. You see the car lengths between, whoa, the 77 makes a little bit of a mistake, but Bryce Kalusa is nowhere to be seen. Look at how gone he is.
Up the road by about 1.2 seconds from Adam Cabot. We'll monitor that battle. Here's the one I'm watching again. Jeff Wright getting this fantastic run on the back straightaway heading into turn 6. Looks out to driver's right of that 33 car. Apexing carefully. Bailey Turner has caught these guys, Tom. It's a three-way fight for the lead.
Last lap through, it was only a tenth or two faster, but the previous lap from that was a burner from that 24 car. So now it's a three-way battle, and Jeff Wright has a shift in the shape of this race. You know, it's not really any different for AJ Stravato, but now Wright has to keep an eye on the mirrors as well as look out the front windshield, and that adds basically doubles the complexity of this race.
Saw the 33 climb up on the curbing into turn 10. That tells me he might be experiencing some understeer. These cars generally handle the curbing pretty well. If you climb up on it, you can get the car to rotate, but that's not something you'd see this early in the race if you were comfortable. You don't really want to take the curbs if you don't have to, but Stravato looks like he's already having to do that. That worries me. I think he's burning up those front tires. Keeping hard left heading into turn 2 to arc it in. Look at the 48 right there on that rear bumper as they crest the hill. But again, turn 6 is where Jeff Wright has been so much better than Stravato. And while I said in the pre-race that I didn't think that would really be a place to make a move, he might make it there. You see the 33 get loose.
A little bit, that little slip and slide. You don't think much of it, but in the car, both of these drivers know that that was a bad thing for the 33 to have happened. And what I'm also really impressed by right now, the 48, you see him backing off in certain sections and basically relieving the tires in really critical sections of that track. He was not attacking turn 3 at all that time through, and that saves the life of the tires a lot. So that time, he knows he's not really losing any distance because, look, he's right back. But I think he's selecting where to put pressure on and take pressure off, not only the tires, but on AJ Stravato.
In the background, there was a couple drivers that were fighting for a moment. Carlisle and Sam Dementier in the 99. Looked like they were going at it for a moment. They've since settled that dispute. Focus back forward on the front runners. Look at Stravato hammering the curbs in turn number 8. And throttling down here again. The car is going to want to kind of swing to the right, but you're going to have to coax it back to the left. He's going to stay off the curbs a little bit more that time through. Wright builds a pretty sizable run here into turn 11, but he's not close enough to make a move.
Turner looking good on the brakes, runs a little bit wide, but squares it up still.
Whoa!
No, that's a big slide. I know it wasn't a lot of angle, but that was a big slide for the 24, trying to put power down and lost a ton of car lengths, maybe 5 or 6 car lengths to the back of the field.
That's about 1 full second. He was right behind him. Look at Jeff Wright out to the right a little bit too much. Meanwhile, behind Bowers now feeling pressure from Carlisle for 5th place. And Sam Dementier, Joshua Banks not too far back. Bryce Kalusa and Adam Cabot both ran about 3 to 4 tenths faster than this group a lap ago. You can see them at the back of that shot. And back to throttle just for a moment, and then you're slamming on the binders to get slowed down for turn 4.
Those sections where you always want to be on throttle a little bit more. You want to get on throttle just that little bit longer and push the limits, but you just got to check up. And it's not worth really pushing that too much. 31 is starting to look like it's coming towards its own, as Carlisle's not nearly on the back bumper quite as much as he had been before. And honestly, Sam Dementier is climbing closer and closer.
Very different lines being taken here. Jeff Wright running a lot wider in turn 6 to try to square up the exit of 7. Builds a bit of a run here, but I don't know if it's sort of like a zero-sum game here. You're just kind of running wide, kind of cutting apexes, and you still are limited by your rear end grip. I don't think it matters what line you take. You're still going to struggle getting the grip down to the ground in these cars.
No, I really think both of these drivers are so on their game right now that the only play for Jeff Wright in the 48 is to pressure AJ Servato strategically without burning his car down too much. And it's really important to basically kind of ride this one out, let the pit stops play out, maybe gain the position on the pit stop, because that might be the best passing opportunity on Sonoma Raceway.
Pit stop games are always a play. You got a little bit of RNG there as well because the pit stop times are randomized, so you might get the opportunity to leapfrog the driver in front of you. You could pit a lap earlier, lap later, undercut versus overcut. Look at the, whoa, there's a run. There's a push there between the two, and Jeff Wright's going to move over to driver's right and pass AJ Stravato. Message sent and received, but I don't think AJ's ready to give it up just yet.
No, I don't think he was trying to do much with that. You see, actually, was very gentlemanly backed out of that one. He's going for the run again, but he's not really pushing the issue much. We're at lap 10 of 35, so coming up on 1/3 way through this race, and that means the pit stop conversation that we just started is going to be that much more important. I think it's a one-stopper tonight, but look at this.
Up the inside into the carousel. The 48 took a look, didn't go for it, maybe just trying to spook the 33. There's a bit of right rear damage on that leading Chevrolet. That is a Christmas gift from the 48. Now he's going to juke to the left, juke to the right. He's getting out of the mirrors here of the race leader as they scrap for the position. Now Bailey Turner right back to the rear bumper of the front duo.
AJ Servato leading, but Jeff Wright is cranking up ever so slightly the dial on the aggression meter. And Bailey Turner is brought back into this battle. He had dropped off 3 or 4 car lengths and now is fully in this one. Once again, the top 3 have broken free of the field. That drop over the S's, the final S's where you just need to get the car set up all the way to the left. Finally flicks the car in before that critical final corner.
Fairly gentle steering, but a little bit stabby with the throttle as well, kind of punching at it, maybe just to help the car rotate through that section. Has a look up the inside of the 48. The front 3 are right on top of each other. Behind them, there's a pass for position. Here comes Calusa right by Banks. Banks slams on the brakes, going to let Adam Cabot go with him. And he loses 2 spots in 1 moment.
And Cabot seem to be attached by a rope or something. They're completely working their way through the field together. And you mentioned that they are 2 of the fastest cars, 2 of the cars to keep an eye on, and they're really working together well at this point. If they can work their way up to maybe the battle between Bowers, Carwile, Devontier, they might be able to gain a couple more positions on that pit stop and find their way towards the podium.
Tell you what, this is getting pretty rowdy. The 48 all over the back of the 33 still. You mentioned turning up and cranking up that volume on the aggression meter. Well, here he is again. And AJ Servato is driving as much in the rearview mirror as he is out the windshield. Here's a juke to the left, right with a huge run up the inside of turn 5.
He almost timed it badly. He almost spun the 33, but he lunged at the just right moment. The 48 goes through the inside. Look at the 33 struggling for grip around the outside of that carousel. There ain't none out there. I'm sorry. And now he's got a ton of pressure from Bailey Turner.
Wow, great pass for the race lead. The 48 took a look, and here comes a 24 up the inside, woeing it down. Unstable for a moment, but he's got driver's right, and he's through. So Servato goes from leader down to the bottom step of the podium in 2 corners.
Smelled blood in the water, did Bailey Turner, and now he's through. Jeff Wright's got a couple of car lengths to work on, and the question is, how much faster was that 48 the entire duration of this race? Will he start to drive away, or will we see this battle compress back together as they all continue to manage their tires? The pit stop window coming closer and closer.
He was the defending winner of this race, but it wasn't by a whole lot. It was Fuel that won in the race a couple of years ago. And kicking the cones out to the side, Bailey Turner closing back in within 2 car lengths here. You mentioned the pit stop situation and whether or not he's fast enough to drive away from Bailey Turner. Time will tell. That time through a 1:39.8 to a 1:40.4. We'll see next time they come around without the passing having to be done. See which driver's actually faster.
You can see the gap already. I really think the 48 had a lot more in the tank, and honestly, Jeff Wright can probably not turn it up that much more because you can see the 5-6 car length lead that car's already pulled over Bailey Turner. Stravato's keeping it in there, but early pit stops already starting.
Bryce Calusa down on pit lane in the number 20 so far today, has made up a couple spots, but was battling mostly with the 77 Adam Cabot. Took right sides, now going to take lefts, tires and fuel for Mr. Feelgoods for the number 20 town.
I almost wonder if he's planning a 2-stopper. I think that might be kind of nuts, but we saw him pull off a strategy we didn't expect at Road Atlanta. He might be doing that here again, but what this is going to do is allow him to put a couple of flyers in qualifying style. He's got completely open track. Look at that. No one in front is going to limit that 20 car. He's going to be able to put in a couple of flyers while everybody else is going a little bit slower, maybe earn a couple of positions on this exchange.
Well, let's look at the leader here. The last lap that Jeff Wright ran was a 1:39.8. His best lap was 3.2 seconds, 2.8 seconds faster than that. That tells me that every lap that Bryce Calusa is running right now is going to gain him 3 seconds on Jeff Wright. Now, you have to gain more time than it takes to go on pit lane. His entire pit delta for the number 20 was about 43 seconds on pit lane. So if Jeff Wright loses 43 seconds to Bryce Calusa over these green flag runs, then Calusa is going to be in a pretty good position. I'm not sure the two-stop strategy is the way to do this, but a caution out here for stage. Forgot about that. Stage caution to mix things up. And that is why the 20 car came to pit lane.
That makes a lot of sense now. So the pace car racing ahead. Look at Porsche just diving in front of Jeff Wright. And now we go to the full course caution. So the 20 car will inherit all the positions that happen here on the pit stop. And that's actually going to take a lot of the pressure off of this pit stop. In a way, one of the things I was going to point out here is the limits coming into the pit stops here at Sonoma. You basically got concrete on both sides. It's really, really tight, and if you can get through there a couple of tenths quicker, that's also a better way to make a pass on somebody or earn a little bit of space back on them. Now, you're basically under full course caution. Everyone's going to have to go through as fast as Jeff Wright does.
Yeah, stage cautions didn't used to be a thing. We had them the first season we did, then we abolished them for a couple of seasons, and now they're back, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But at lap number 13, we've got our first stage caution. We will run green to the end from here, but tires and fuel for everybody. Bryce Calusa just did a great strategy play. He will get to start out in front of all these drivers when they come hit pit lane. So Calusa is going to play the strategy just to get ahead, and that will put him in a pretty good position. He didn't use up those tires because the lap he ran, he knew he was coming to a yellow, didn't have to push.
Yeah, so he probably rolled out of there, and that's the biggest challenge now is he's going to have one lap older tires than everybody else around him. You see he's still not even caught the field, just taking his sweet time to get back up towards the back of the pack. That 20 car, even though he didn't qualify, is now looking like a pretty strong contender, I think.
Looking at his best lap, though, we did run, I mean, maybe he was planning on doing this the whole time, so we don't know if he was running full tilt, but his best lap is 2 seconds, well, a second and a half slower than Jeff Wright. So I'm not sure he's got the raw pace, at least we haven't seen it yet. But we're going to see it put to the test here in a moment once everyone comes and hits pit lane. So up at the front, it's Jeff Wright, Bailey Turner, AJ Stravato, Jeremy Miller, and Brandon Bowers, your top 5. And again, at last week's Talladega race, it was Jonathan Hernandez that gained 4 spots with Jeremy Miller to jump up into second and third. They have neither of those drivers. I guess Jeremy Miller's had an okay day. Hernandez back in 15th. But Bailey Turner coming into the night, if he can just have a top 5 night, I think he'll walk out of here with the points lead, which is all the rage here. If you look at the last couple races that we run, Tom, our next race is going to be after the new year. That's going to be on January 2nd at Dover Speedway. That's a huge challenge. Then we go to a short track in Iowa, and then we finish out at Atlanta, a hot, slick speedway. 3 very different track types coming up. It's going to favor a lot of different drivers. Super diverse way to end the season as everybody comes down for tires and fuel.
A couple of cars stayed out, but again, this will be the only pit stop for a majority of these cars, getting tires, fuel, and in the randomization of the pit stop time, the question becomes, of these top 3, who gets out first?
First pit stall should help the 33. He'll get to exit right here, but he's not going to. The 48 and 24 will beat him off of pit lane. A couple drivers decided to stay out. Not sure if this is just for points reasons. Halpern will collect a lap led if he led at the line. He has not yet, so he might choose to pit at the end of the sequence just to lead a lap and get that point. Hernandez behind would like to do the same thing, but not everyone can play that strategy, so some of them might bail and come get tires this time by. So far, what we've seen, Tom, is a lot of drivers got stuck. And I think when drivers feel like they get stuck, that ramps up the aggression on the restart, because they know that the only real chance that you've got of passing 3 or 4 cars in a lap is on that restart. So heading up the hill into turn 2 next time, I think it's going to get a little bit more physical. The elbows will get a little bit wider. I would worry a bit if I was mid-pack that I might get run into, or I might run into somebody else. If you're up at the front, I think you're okay. But the mid-pack drivers will have to be a little bit cautious that the aggression is going to be ramped up in this mid part of the race.
Yeah, and I should point out, I give a lot of credit to all of this entire field, all the drivers, for how strong that start was, how clean this entire race has been with dealing the bull in the china shops that we have here at Sonoma Raceway with these cup cars out. And I think I'm trying to decide if I think that Bryce Calusa's in a good spot or a little bit of a tricky spot, because he's got 3 cars who are not on pace necessarily in front of him. It would have been a genius move if he was starting first, but now he's got 3 more cars to work his way through, and if they don't pit right now, they're going to be rolling roadblocks for him just like they are for the rest of the field. And it's going to be within, you know, a couple of tenths or even a second, so it's not dramatic, but even still, do they pit? Yes, they do, at least 2 of them.
Yeah, they're all going to come
All
in
of
pit lane. I don't think there's a reason that you would stay out here all the way, maybe just to lead a lap, but they'd have to come in before the pit cycle's over, otherwise you're just giving up really track position. It looks like Casey Lakatos is also going to hit pit lane. He had kind of cycled his way to the front. He rolled through the pit lane last time, didn't take a stop. So this will cycle your front runners to be Bryce Calusa, Jeff Wright, Bailey Turner, and Stravado. The cars that stayed out were Halpern, Hernandez, and Zach Floyd. As we get the 1 to green, lights are extinguished atop the roof of the Porsche pace car. And now lane choice. This is always a big discussion when we come here, Tom. Left side or right side? Because right side puts you on the inside for turn 2, but you might be clear. You might want drivers left for that first corner.
Well, I think left side for sure, just because we've seen how hard it is to actually hold the outside and just keep anything other than your own lane. I think I want to cut the distance through the front straightaway. While the tires are fresh, it's going to be pretty easy to do. And also, calling back to one thing you pointed out, the fastest lap of this race for the 20 car of Bryce Calusa was only that 38 and some change. That may not be the fairest assessment of the pace of that car, because starting in the back, you can't use the speed that you have. He might have been dictated by the cars in front of him as he's racing his way through, and then by the time he got some clear air, the tires aren't so happy. So indeed, he does pick the left side lane. He picks the shorter distance down the front, quote-unquote, straight. And again, we're going to see a more strong indication of what the real pace in that 20 car is. Don't forget, he was second quickest in practice.
We're going to have 20 laps to go at the restart. Give me a prediction. The 48 car, I think, was the fastest car before. Do you think this strategy call plays out for Calusa? Is he the one that wins this race, or is it Wright, Stravado, or Turner, the triple threat in the Chevrolets?
Well, I totally agree. The 48 had that basically in the palm of his hand. He was controlling the race really well. He was ramping up the aggression at the right time, but really had not a lot of pressure to put on a lot before the pit stops. Now that the pit stops are done, really the only wild card for me is, what does the 20 car, Bryce Calusa, what does that car have for pace to start off with? Will he respond to the pressure the same, better, worse than AJ Stravado was? Because Stravado was handling it very well, but I do think that the 48 was pretty much controlling that situation.
Re-racking and restacking for our one and only restart here today. Last week at Talladega, we went without a single caution in a 94-lap race at Talladega with a 30-plus car grid. We got real close a couple times. We didn't have any crashes. So far today, we've only really seen some single-car incidents. It's been really clean out there. I think we're about due for some chaos and confusion.
Well, I'll knock on wood that that's not true, but that might happen, and I think that also comes back to just the quality of this field, especially this deep in the season. The stakes are high. We're in the chase, and we're coming to the green flag.
Out of turn number 11 and back up the throttle. Green flag back in the air. Bryce Calusa clears the 48 car. Big slip there for the leaders as they're on new tires. Everyone's scattering into turn number 1.
That might have been the first time Calusa gets to run through the turn 12 onto the front straightaway without any inhibition from the front. But look at the 33 around the outside. That's going to be tough to hold, and the rest of the field streams through cleanly once again.
Down into turn 3 now. The 20 car leads the way. They're still double file midway through the field. There's the 99 at Devontier, who had a really good run going at Road Atlanta before getting rear-ended, crashed on the back straightaway. Angelo Rodas on the outside as they take the shortcut into the infield. Again, a very clean restart. Everyone's been behaving and minding their P's and Q's today, which they did at Talladega last week. They're extending that same courtesy this week in California.
Calusa ran a little bit wide coming through turn 5 and now diving through turn 6 at the carousel. He looks like he's still reeling from it. The back end of that car trying to poke out once again, and I think Jeff Wright is back in a very familiar situation where he might feel, as he's the faster car on this first restart, look at him roll up to the back bumper at the slowest point on the track. But then the 20 car is going to get to square this corner up and run towards the S's. Calusa, this has not been the cleanest restart from him, though. I've seen that car wiggle a couple of times, and that's not necessarily the best sign.
The other thing that Calusa can do with control of this race is actually force the 48 to go the long way around, to use up those tires, to dive in and make failed pass attempts. That's going to burn up stuff in the 48 car. So Calusa can almost impact the 48 as much defensively as he could offensively, but I don't think it's going to be long for this world as the 48 dives up the inside in turn number 11. He's going to go back through to the lead. The 33 locked him up, getting to the inside of the 24, side by side for first and third as they exit onto the front straight.
This is looking more like a restart than we would have thought, but that inside line is going to be tougher and tougher. Calusa holds it, but Wright sweeps around the outside. They're already rolling off the throttle trying to make it up into turn 1. Look how wide the 48 goes, but he's got the position. Turner sideways to turn 1, deep on the brakes into 2.
He got it gathered up somehow, and the 33 is going to get a great run at the exit of turn 2. Look at Brandon Bowers now with a head of steam coming back from 5th. Great driving up at the front of the field here, but a couple drivers about to step over the edge.
He worked his way just past Jeremy Miller, who sits 3rd in the chase, but drops back a couple of points. And I think what we just saw, Jeff Wright was patient for the first part of this race and said, nah, I'm not having any of that. I'm going to go by the first opportunity I get. Calusa was showing signs of struggle, and Wright took the opportunity. Will he start to drive away, though, is the big question. It looks like he's starting to by a couple of car lengths.
He saw the potential of his pace at the end of that previous run, and I don't think there's any holding him back now. He knows how fast he is, but he's going to take it and run with it while he can. In the background, a couple of drivers trying to shuffle positions, but again, tricky to get runs building onto out of the carousel. The 77 of Cabot is a car I thought would be better today. 16th to 8th, he's done a good job climbing. I thought he'd pull something similar to what Calusa did. I was surprised he didn't. I think that would have been the move for the 77.
Well, I think that comes down to research and knowing exactly what to expect from this race. I don't know if they knew exactly when the caution would come out, but they knew it was going to happen at some point. And Calusa, got it right. Cabot didn't quite get it right. He still made a ton of progress. Looking at the back of Ryan Carwile, who has yet to claim any positions, but has run a good race so far as well. Top group is still completely single file. Carwile deep into 11.
A lot of accordioning, as I like to call that. That's not really a verb, but it is now here. Or all the drivers sort of condense nose to tail in that final corner, then stretch back out again on the straightaways. And if you can kind of eat up one end of that accordion, you're going to be in a good shape heading through the straightaways. Calusa now struggling to keep up with the 48, and now he's got pressure from behind. I just don't think Calusa has the raw pace needed to catch Jeff Wright. However, we should note that he is running basically on par with his best laps of the day. Problem is, it's not as fast as the other drivers around him.
And it's tough once you get put in a position where you have to respond. You got to turn it up and deliver in the moment. You know, it's kind of tough sometimes to do that. So he's still running a solid podium, 2nd place. Back here, I did see a big slide out of Cabot down the front straightaway, and Sam Devontier from behind had pulled up to the back bumper. But it looks like in the more technical sections where it's not completely down to just getting clean cornering, the 77 has pulled that car wings back.
Onto the back straightaway now, 18 laps complete. This is the halfway point of this race. And we haven't really seen a whole lot in the way of accidents, crashes, spins, or passing. It's been pretty much single file, which is why the restart was so important. If you have to wonder why Jeff Wright was pushing so hard to get back by that 20 car, is because I think he knew if he didn't get by him quickly, he'd get stuck behind him, a lot more difficult to pass later in the run. So he got it done, he's out of the way, he can set his own pace and drive away now.
And his pace is good. Look, it's now up to almost 10 car lengths back to Bryce Calusa. Calusa has a mirror full of Bailey Turner, who is showing the nose a little bit down at the turn 11. Calusa with a big wiggle on the final downshift, but gets it gathered up. Look at Turner just square the corner up a little bit better. He's a full car width to the right, which straightens this front straightaway out a little bit more than it would otherwise be. And I think while that 20 car holds the position at this point in time, with still half of this race to go, he might be in a little bit of trouble.
His 24 car is flying right now. He's lapping as quickly as any driver around him, with the exception of Jeff Wright, actually quicker than everybody around him. But look at him slide out to the right there. I think he sees that 48 car getting smaller in the windshield, and that's kind of amping up Turner to get by this 20 car. Again, I think being safe and in control is key to the 24 tonight. Keep the points lead, don't give it away doing something silly. But winning isn't silly. I'm sure he'd like to go do that.
No.
Here he comes.
This is a bold move. They're going to run wide. Calusa gives him the lane that he needs, but Turner keeps it pinned to the grass. The dirt, I should say, here at Sonoma. And look at who's into this one now. The 33, a big wiggle off the corner. AJ Stravato trying to find a way. Maybe up the middle. No, has to tuck back in, and Calusa keeps it in. The 2nd position.
It's going to open up the door to the inside for the 33. Couldn't quite squeeze it down there. The 24 is going to cross him over into turn 7. Gets condensed down to the apex. Almost drills the curb. Now singled back out. But Turner's dive into turn 5 was awesome. He just threw it down in there and hoped it stuck, and it did. It just wasn't able to complete it and finish off without being able to carry the momentum on the inside lane. That got really dicey there. They've sorted it back out, but the intensity is rising.
And the tires are only going to be able to do that so many times. So it's more important to get it done now while the tires have them in them. Because once those fall off for everybody, it makes it that much harder, and you almost have to rely on a mistake. But I think you made a great point for the championship chase. Whoa, a big mistake, a lockup, some tire hop on the way into 11. And look at Bailey Turner's going to try the outside lane. This is going to be tough, but not undoable.
Here he goes. He's got overlap now sideways through turn number 12 across the line. Dead heat there for 2nd place. Now Turner goes the long way around for turn number 1. He's got it done and clears the 20 car for second. What a move there. Oh, Stravato's going to turn Calusa. He slides, he hangs onto it. Great save there, but the 33 is going to go by.
That's on the line there between those two, but Calusa does a great job to gather it up and also not get into Bailey Turner, who I was going to say is in the highest pressure situation of this entire race because he has that championship lead. Now we've provoked the bear. This entire field is starting to get racy on one another, and it just took one hang up at the front to make it happen. Carlisle showed the nose for a minute, had then Adam Cabot trying to overlap. Now Sam Devontier in the black and purple car goes for a lunge.
Stacked everybody up, Tom. That's what happens. The 71's a little bit offline. As soon as those two drivers start to fight, everyone else catches back up and they get stuck in a traffic jam and they just want to go, go, go. Jonathan Hernandez has found his way to pit lane. It looks like he's getting tires here. No damage to that car. I don't know if he's in it anymore. He is actually out of the car, it looks like. So the driver that came into the night second in points coming off of his win at Talladega last week, which was his first win ever in the series, not going well tonight, and this is going to be a big hit to his championship hopes. Whoa, look at the 24.
Well, that was a big slide. Look, the 33 is really closed up. AJ Stravato got a big gift there, and notice who's missing. The 48, Jeff Wright, is gone. He's a pixel up in the up in the distance, rounding the apex at turn 7. But what does Bailey Turner have now? This is the first time that he's really had to deal with some pressure from behind. He had that slip in the S's, but does a good job getting off of 11 and pulls away. Wow, that's a big pull.
I was going to say, that they didn't put those tire bundles there. We'd be doing turns in Seattle. I mean, they're just not getting down there. They cut that so tight. I know I saw that Cup drivers there this year were actually knocking over the tire barrels from cutting that corner so tight. Really not an advantage to running wide there. You want to stay as tight as you can the whole way through. Not really a point to arc it in. You just want to stay tight and to the right. And that's what they're doing. Look at them all clobbering the curb in turn 3. And another driver kind of poking his head in the mix. Here comes the 77. Slowly but surely is what I've seen out of him tonight. Not the progress at the pace I would have expected, but he might have a top 5 car by the end of this, especially if he catches this group in front of him, which is getting pretty racy. There's Jeremy Miller, came into the night running well in the points and is having a much better night than I even think he expected to have, so this will be a pleasant surprise. And Bowers and Calusa fighting for 4th now.
Yeah, Bowers looks quick in the Tide car. He's got a pretty good run on Bowers in a number of places in the last lap. Is it Tide or Menards or both? It's both.
It's both.
Okay, good. The 31 has looked pretty quick this lap and drops off a little bit exiting that turn 7-8 complex, but then rolls back up. Look at the speed that 31 can roll.
A lot of it. He's going to gain a ton on the 20 car track all the way out to the edge of the curbing, and he's going to be right on the tailpipes heading into the hairpin. Calusa just looks like he's struggling in general. I think the strategy was sound. The pace is not quite there to make the strategy work for him. Cones go flying on again on entry. Here comes Jeremy Miller. Took a look up the inside, and now here's Cabot. No other battles to speak of at the moment, especially out front. I think Jeff Wright has booked a flight, and he has just taken off this afternoon.
Well, and he used the tires at the right time. The thing we have to keep an eye on is the sustained pace because we still have almost 15 laps to go, 14 this time across the line, and that's a long time to go on a single set of tires here at Sonoma. But he used the pace early on when the tires had him. He put 4.2 seconds on Bailey Turner, but last time across the line, they were only about 2.5 tenths apart on pace.
Miller going for a slide that's going to put the 31 car off course. Pulled away for 1 second, and these guys go chaotic and crazy. I think he might have gotten some help here from the 77. Here's a look at him.
Climb the curve big time at the top of turn 3. Both the left and right are considered turn 3, but then just gets on the brakes. Whoa, big punt from Cabot. And honestly, the 31 has to come off the brake pedal, runs wide, and somehow the 30, after getting punted, gains the position. Fortunately for the 31, he had been running strong. Look at the 77, is not afraid to put a bumper on anybody right now.
Maybe some frustration. I also think it's possible that he just forgot where he was going for a second. It looked like he wasn't even trying to stop. And the muscle memory here, every time you come here in a stock car, as they've been doing for a couple decades now, is just to drive off towards turn 4A, which is that kind of 80-degree right-hander with that big curb jump that's so much fun to watch. That's what you do almost every time you run here in a stock car. A lot of these guys have probably never even run this layout if they didn't run this series of the official racing. This is a new thing for them. Look at Sam Devontier having a look out to the right. And Bowers is going to get into the back of him. It's getting physical back here now.
It's definitely getting physical. I was just going to shout out to... looks like Cabot has certainly gained Carwile dropped out of a couple of positions. He's all the way back in 10th now. Sam Devontier had climbed up a couple of positions, as has the 29 of Angelo Cronus. But with that punt, now Brandon Bowers is up one more spot once again.
Ooh, getting slicing and dicing down through turn 2. Carwile now has a run, so does Joshua Banks. And it seems like the battle is just every lap seems to shift one spot back, and we've kind of gone from watching the lead down to 10th through 12th. And Laughter is a little bit behind this. Ooh, big bobble there by the 36 car. We'll jump back, pick up Laughter, who was running better earlier in the race, has dropped off and just hasn't had the speed he had earlier in the day when he was running up inside the top 10.
Still a whole third of this race to go. And as you said, things starting to get physical. It's only going to get worse as the grip goes away. We've seen these drivers on this set of tires almost the same length as we were on the first set of tires.
Woo!
So, whoa, a big slide from Cabot.
And I don't know if these guys are necessarily in the same plane of agreement right now after that big push and shove a little while ago. 30 car leaves him half a lane. Now the 77 is going to take it. Playing nice now, but I wouldn't expect a lot to be given vice versa here. I think we might see that 77 with the rear tailpipes kind of folded up a little bit here in a bit.
Sure, no love lost. And if you're the 30, you might be able to back the 77 up a little bit, back Cabot up a little bit towards Brandon Bowers, who's, again, still got plenty of pace in that car. He got pushed off a couple of laps ago. But you got to be careful. You're trying to back someone up. They might just hit you.
Going to have a good run here down into turn number 11. He's going to offset to the right just slightly. Parks it in a little bit hot. He's going to go wide. Bauer sees an opportunity. He'll cut it short and get a run here.
A lot of trust in the brakes for Cabot right now, but I don't know if it's actually benefiting him much. Going to get pitched down to the wall in the front straightaway sideways for both drivers in tandem slides, and now the 31 goes back through.
That was really slidey there for a moment. We talked about the track temp. I expected it to climb. Let's have a look at it now. It really hasn't gone up that much. There's actually cloud over the speedway now. But I think it's more the temperature that's built in the rubber more than it is on the racetrack that's making these things so slidey. Cabot's going to try to go back by here, and this is a tough place to make this work. Oh, he's going to knock the 31, send him around, and there's a spin in turn 4.
That's unfortunate. I think at this point the 77 is just trying too hard. He's got to realize that he's not faster than the cars around him, and just because he wants the position doesn't mean he gets to have it. That's the second time we've seen the 31 go for a slide. This time a little more coaxed from the inside. Look at 77, grabs a downshift, locks the rear end around, and sends the 31 off into the fences.
That's a frustrating place to go off to. Not a lot of grip in the dirt here either, so Bowers will slide back to 14th spot. Meanwhile, Cabot's now got pressure from Banks behind. There's another push. The gloves are coming off here. 1-2 hits in turn number 7.
And that's what happens when there's no passing opportunities. You got to make them somehow, and there's a line that you shouldn't really cross, but these drivers are flirting with it in a couple of places. Now, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I was going to say the 36 has climbed up another spot, which has bumped Carwile. Was out of the top 10 for a moment. Back there now.
I'm amazed that, I mean, this has actually been relatively reserved. We've seen one multi-car accident today. We should have seen about 7 of them last week at Talladega. We didn't. I think there's a lot of pent-up energy that's getting released here. This is a good place to do it. Every time you go to a short track or a road course, this is where you get even, and this is a good place to do it. Not so great at Talladega when you can send someone into the parking lot, but here it's a good, safe place to get your frustrations out. I don't think we're done just yet.
Well, and what comes next on the schedule but a short track? So we've got 2 of them in a row. Tempers maybe flaring a little bit in the bottom half of the top 10 right now. Storylines in the top 10 are kind of a nothing burger. Jeff Wright's driven off into the distance. Bailey Turner is by himself. Adrian Travado is trying to keep up. But we still have 10 whole laps to go, and mistakes are going to start to happen more so and more so as these tires fall away.
Looking down at the bottom of your screen, Jeff Wright is the car now approaching the middle, and this is give you a good idea of what 7 seconds looks like at a road course. There is your race leader, and there is second place. It is not even close right now. Wright driving away. Now Carwile and Cabot have traded positions, and now Carwile in the back of Banks.
Actually, Cabot's dropped behind all of them, so Banks and Carwile have both picked up a spot. Looks like Banks is feeling a little wiggly coming through the chute between turns 4, 5, and 6, but gets a good run off the carousel. Carwile with a wiggle there as well.
Now Adam Cabot, with all the damage that he's got, I can't imagine it's hurting him too badly. Again, we mentioned not a lot of downforce on these cars, but it's pretty easy to punch in your radiator here as Ben Laughter goes wide behind. Loses a spot to Cockrell. Pretty easy to knock in your radiator. And also, you have a little tiny bit of downforce, and the second you wreck your race car, all that's gone, and it just drives like a dump truck. So any semblance of downforce that the 77 car had is now garbage, and he's just going to have to deal with what he's got left. Carwile, though, keeping pressure on Banks here for 9th. Take that 8th place.
Yeah, I think Banks kind of inherited this track position off of all that interaction, but I don't think he's one of the fastest
Whoa,
cars.
he's in
Makes
hot.
a big mistake. That's what we were just talking about. The mistakes are going to come hot and heavy, I think, towards the end of this race. Cabot tries to get the drag race. Carwile's through.
Too much pace into turn number 11. You could, you know, what's what I was going to say? You could give me a quarter every time we see that tonight, and I'd have probably 4 quarters. Everyone's been doing a pretty good job tonight. This is a hard combination. Not enjoyable. I did half a lap to take the screenshot for the thumbnail, and I was having a hard time. So Banks going to cross over here at the outside of turn 3. Not really a place to make a move. Cabot might get opportunistic here.
A tedious but necessary stage in the chase for this final 5 races of the season. This is race 2 of 5 in that chase. And now it looks like Cabot, who we ride on board with, is quicker still. I think we might maybe see Carwile start to pull away, because remember, Banks was kind of holding this little train up. Say that, look at the entry speed he carries. That's looking good into the carousel.
Yeah, the entry speed, however, I mean, it might cost you some on exit, so closing in there might not necessarily net you anything. Look at Cabot hanging out the tires. He's been certainly fun to watch tonight. Certainly looks good on camera. And into turn number 6 now, Carwile looking relatively composed. Banks overdriving slightly, but going to square up turn 7 and try to build another run. Up for second place, I wanted to keep an eye on this because Turner and Stravato are both running pretty well, about nose to tail here. And one thing we should take note of is AJ Stravato came into this season, or coming into the chase with 1 win. Last season he had 3 at this time, so he's hungry to get wins. He also spent most of the season leading the points on consistency. So running 3rd is a great place to win a championship. The problem is, the guy in front of him right now is in front of him on the racetrack and in the points. He's got to get by him.
Not only the guy in front of him, but the leader of the whole thing. But the 33s responded well. I think this gap had grown well over 1.5 seconds the last time I looked down, so I was surprised to see the 2 so close. Perhaps a mistake from Bailey Turner. We're just speculating, but now looks like we got a race for second.
Yeah, last lap by is a 140.1 to a 139.8 for AJ Stravato, so I think the longevity is there in the 33.
Look at the wiggle from the 24 over the crest at 9, and now he's deep into turn 4. Did I say 9 out of 3? So the 24 is showing signs of weakness. And the 33, who led a large portion of the beginning of this race, the first 10 laps or so, is putting the pressure on big time.
Yeah, it led exactly 10 laps. Nice memory there, Tom. We head down the hill out of turn number 5. Keeping an eye on this and also scanning throughout the field to make sure you're not missing anything. You're not right now. The other closest battle is Carwile and Banks for 8th. And I'm also watching Bryce Calusa has lost a lot of time to Jeff Wright, but he has not lost as much as I would have thought to Turner and Stravato. It's 1.3 back from those front 2. Maybe the 20 car's got something coming back his way here towards the end of this run.
Yeah, especially if he thought maybe a little bit earlier on to save his tires. I think the 24 is struggling with tires at this point, but I totally agree. Calusa is 1 exchange away from being in the battle of second, and I say exchange, 1 side-by-side moment. Between these 2, it might happen now. No, thought about it. It still might happen.
Oh, there's a touch. There's a touch. He's going to get alongside, and Turner's going to have to give him room now. A little bit naughty there, but Rubbin's racing, and through goes the 33 to second.
So the 24 was having a hard time even getting off the corner straight. More sideways action. And as I speculated it might happen, Calusa didn't really gain off of that one. So now the 33 is through back to second.
Turner clipped the dirt heading up the hill. He wanted to shortcut that as much as he could. Pulling away just a little bit. I think the 33 is the better car, but Calusa, let me tell you, he is starting to fly now. I don't think he's going to have any time anywhere near enough to go catch Jeff Wright, but he could get up to 3rd or maybe even 2nd.
No, Wright is up the track now to the tune of 10.5 seconds, so he's as good as gone unless there's lap traffic or a huge mistake. But Stravato's looking quick. Turner still looks like he's struggling a bit and now back in the field a little bit further.
Oh, Ronas, big moment there through turn 4. He gathers it back up, but now has Ryan Carwile hunting him down through turn 4. Well, you hear the tires give way, and now the 71 goes up the inside for turn 5. Ronas is in pretty deep. Can he woe it down? Oh, he's going to be out wide. He's going to get into the dirt. Can he save it? He does. He'll lose 1, 2, maybe 3 spots here on the backside.
Yeah, that was close. He was trying to square off the exit of that corner and didn't quite get the backside that he wanted. Dropped 2 and loses 3 positions. And now that puts Carwile back up through. I remember I called him out. He was keep an eye on that guy. He's always stronger towards the end of these races and always puts himself in the right place. He was down as far as 11th at one point. Is back up to 7th.
Is starting to move back forward now. 77 to Cabot. got kind of a freebie. The 29 pulled over and let him go, and that's going to bring him right to the rear tailpipes of the 36 car of Joshua Banks. Big wiggle there through turn number 10. See if it translates into a missed opportunity in the braking zone. No, he gets it down to speed nicely here. 43 miles an hour. It just feels so slow. And you're down to what should be first gear, but you don't actually want maximum torque here. You actually want to work into the torque, and you're going to go to second gear where the car is kind of gutless and actually avoid spinning your tires that way. So driver's going to be playing with the gearbox a little bit. We heard some drivers even go to third down there, playing with the different ratios, but you just want to get grip, and you're not going to get it in first gear though.
Traction control the old-fashioned way.
Yes.
Pick which amount of torque you want. You want the most, the second most, the third most, etc. And it's a challenge that these drivers are going to probably have to adapt throughout this race distance. You know, early on in the race, or early on in the fuel and tire stint, you could probably use first for a couple of laps, and then you might have to start using second towards this end of the run, which is going to be almost an 18-lap run. You might even start using third. Who knows?
Nice and tidy down the hill through the carousel. And second place, still about 0.8 of a second. I think Turner is not quite as fast. He's fast enough to stay within eyesight of the 33. I just don't think he's going to run him back down. Getting down to the final couple laps of this race. 10 minutes remaining, about 6 laps worth. Jeff Wright is just crushing it right now. And if we look at the championship situation, let's have a look at his season. He currently tied for 6th in the standings. It has not been the best of seasons. He's been very hit or miss, Tommy. He's won a race back at Michigan and Chicago, so the larger tracks have been good to him. But the Charlotte was a bad race for him. Talladega was only an 11th. Road Atlanta was only a 10th. And Daytona was 13th. So it's been really hit or miss. And then other than the hit or misses, it's been 6th, 7th, just not good enough to win on consistency. So if he can get a win here, then go to Dover and finish well, I think he might have enough points to close in on guys like Bailey Turner and Stravato, who are much more consistent.
Yeah, it's early enough in the chase that you can still kind of rally that one. He's got 3 more rounds left after tonight. And again, tonight's, if it comes through as a win, that's going to be a big turnaround in that chase for the current race leader. I'm going to say towards the second, third place, fourth place battles, Stravato looks consistent. Turner still looks to be struggling and getting ever so slightly bigger in the windshield of Bryce Calusa lap after lap.
Now, looking at Bailey Turner's season, we've talked about the storyline quite a bit. It was a disastrous start to the season for him. He was mired down in 15th, 20th in the points, Daytona 22nd, then 11th at Road America, 21st at North Wilkesboro, 28th at Michigan. Just not a good start. Then went to Darlington, dominated that race, won that race. Went to Rockingham, 4th, then 5th. Road Atlanta was only in 11th, but then 3rd, 6th, 1st. A bad race at Charlotte and another 3rd at Talladega. It's been a mighty good season. Basically sans Talladega, which is a wild card anyway. So Bailey Turner, to me, has the most momentum this season, and he's currently leading the points. I think he'll stay that way leaving Sonoma as long as he finishes where he is. The other guy that led most of the season was AJ Stravato. And if you look at his season, it's not surprising why he led the points, with the exception of a 30th and a 15th. Every other race has been in the top 10 this season. And first once, but second a handful of times, 3 to my count. Third a handful of times, 4th 3 times. It's just been an amazing season. But a bad race at, not even a bad race, a mediocre race at Talladega put him in the on the back burner a little bit in the point standings. Has some work to do at Dover and Iowa to have a shot heading into Atlanta at the end of the year.
Doing great right now, though. He's starting to pull away and actually put over half a second on Bailey Turner last lap through alone. And Turner is still, once again, a little bit closer to Bryce Calusa. Jeremy Miller, Sam Devontier are both running fairly lonely 5th and 6th. But we're watching the current battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right there on your screen. And I think that 20 cars getting bigger in the mirrors for Bailey Turner, still more and more.
Yeah, a little bit quicker the last couple laps. Faster than everybody in the top 5 with the exception of Jeff Wright. So Bryce Calusa might have oversaved, I think. Had he been a little bit more aggressive at the outset, he might have been able to hold off Jeff Wright for a little longer and maybe stay with Stravato and Turner. He spent most of this run just catching back up, and maybe he oversaved the tires a little bit too much, saved too much good to the end. Now you can't use it with 5 laps to go.
Well, either that or we saw him making small mistakes, but numerous mistakes on that restart, and I think he might have overexerted the car really early on when the tires were really good. It's taken him too long having recovered it. He did recover it, he caught it, but it might have been a little bit too little too late. He still has 5 laps to maybe position a move on the 24 car, but just even pressure for a mistake. 36, meanwhile, has still got a lot of pressure from Mr. Excitement this race, Adam Cabot.
That's a great name for him. And typically, Adam is a pretty low-key character out there on the racetrack. Doesn't really make a lot of waves and generally runs pretty clean tonight. As designated by the damage on the front of that car, he's been a little bit of a dump truck in a rental car parking lot, if that's a saying we can make. Big slide for the 36, and here comes a 77. Going to squeeze there, just a slight touch on the quarter panel. Knock it in so it fails the template inspection post-race, but it's still going to scrap for 8th spot.
Almost had the opportunity to go through, but
whoa, car around.
Again, whoa.
Clifton Cockrell spun in turn number 11, and a couple drivers had to split him. But he's actually, I think he got in here all by himself. Let's have a look.
Way up the road. Yeah, he has to be doing this by himself.
Yeah, wheel hop. You can see the car just did not get mowed down. Loops it. Watch these guys split him. Wow, nice job there. But this is a great example. We might be able to get this in slow motion to see the car actually hop and skip. If we get a close-up look on it, a little bit tricky, but you can actually see the rear end bouncing up and down, heading off into the corner. It does not leave you a lot of chance to save it, especially in a corner that's so slow, and then it just slowly comes around on you. Lazy spin. Great job there by Laughter and Bowers to get by.
Yeah, you can almost guarantee that both of those cars were on the limit of adhesion for themselves, so for them to be able to have the control to avoid is an impressive feat. We're back up to that battle for 8th position between Banks and Cabot. Cabot's certainly the quicker car, but has decided the front end of that car's had enough. Trying to find the clean way through. Hasn't happened yet.
We're going to keep an eye on that one, and also Bowers and Laughter. They both split that spinning 16 car a moment ago. We'll keep our eyes on this, but the 77 car, called a Mr. Excitement. He has definitely been that. Big slide through 10, didn't get the car turned in. I think he's just brute forcing it around here at this point.
Yeah, and that's a really tough corner to see when you're, look at how big the profile of this car is from behind, with a really, really high rear end and a really high roof line. So I think he just kind of missed the turning point because he couldn't see where to go, and then followed the repetition from his memory, and it was just a little bit too slow. But look at him struggling for grip, almost pancakes the wall on the front straightaway, starting with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, you mentioned the size of these cars and how difficult it is to see in front of you. This is why racing at Talladega in a pack of 30 cars and not having a crash is unbelievable, because you look out the windshields of these cars and your nose to tail, you can't see anything. You're just seeing a sliver through the rear window and front window of the car in front of you, and that's about all you get. And you're doing 195, 200 miles an hour. That in itself is a pretty amazing feat. Adam Cabot, though, struggling now with just maintaining grip. It seems like he's just stepping over that boundary a bit too much and wearing out those tires.
Yeah, that was a big bobble in turn 3. Loses about 5 car lengths off of the back of Joshua Banks. Up towards, I noticed Bryce Calusa had clawed himself within a half a second of Bailey Turner. It's now stretched back out to about 8/10. So it's yo-yoing slightly, but with only 3 laps to go, Bryce Calusa's got a lot of incentive to push the hardest he's pushed right now.
Rudy S is now kind of slipping through the curbing here and pulling up over the crest. 48 car is nowhere to be found. He's all the way down here in the hairpin. This is a great example. There's the 48 car. The second place car, AJ Stravato, 11.6 seconds back. It's Bailey Turner, 1.9 behind him. Bryce Calusa closing a half-second differential for third.
Yeah, the only time Stravato can see right is if he turns 90 degrees across and looks across turn 11 here as they enter and exit the staging lanes for the drag strip at Sonoma. But this is another big battle. Sam Devontier locks the brakes up, and Ryan Carwile capitalizes to the inside line, is going to put the power down and try to shut the door through turn 12.
A nice textbook pass there for the 71, puts him into 6th. Sam Devontier just a bit too much pace. Again, these cars weigh about 3,500 pounds and don't have the fancy carbon brakes that some of the higher GT cars have. And you're going to feel that. Their brakes will wear out in the real world. They don't wear out quite as much here, but they're not very effective, and sometimes they're too effective at low speeds. So you see 71 climbing the curving there. You got to be real careful on brakes here. They are deadly.
We're actually watching the second fastest car on track, all but Jeff Wright. And that's Ryan Carwile, so he's got some surge here at the very last 2 laps of the race. Got a long way to go to get to Jeremy Miller for a top 5. I don't think that's going to quite happen unless there's a big mistake, but having been down as far as 11th, this is a good rally right here at the end.
Calusa would love to get by Bailey Turner, put himself on podium here, but he's just sitting a little bit too far back. Jeff Wright, though, out front. Next time by will be the last lap for him. He has led out of the 33 that we've completed 20 of those laps. And 10 belong to AJ Stravato, who runs second, 12.5 seconds back. This has just been a clinic. This is not something we've seen Jeff Wright do at a road course in some time. I believe his last road course win was actually here about 18 months ago.
Look at the lack of drama from that 48 car coming off of turn 11. I think every other car we've watched in the last 5 laps has slipped and slid through the exit of turn 11, and Jeff Wright is totally dramaless just coming through there.
Just misspoke. He has actually won 2 races this season, so his winning drought ended far before or far sooner than the what I just mentioned at Sonoma. I think it was a couple wins ago. Over the crest of turn 3 rather. Leads now by 13 seconds and is on the final 2.5-mile circuit here at Sonoma Raceway. Other battles on the racetrack, at least for the time being. And just clean and tidy. I don't think he's put 1 foot wrong the whole day, not a scratch on it. There's a little scratch on that right front from nudging the 33 at one point, but it has not been frantic. There was no rush for the 48. He just did what he had to do, and I think he knew coming into the night that he would probably be the best here. And when you have that confidence, you're not overdriving. You're not putting the car in places it doesn't need to be. You're just doing your job, and that's what he's done tonight.
Yeah, watching that car the first 10 laps that he was not leading, I still think he was really controlling that race from the second position and making sure that he was set up for success. As soon as we got those pit stops out of the way, he took his one moment to capitalize, attacked Bryce Calusa on the first lap of that restart, and has checked out ever since. Speaking of Calusa, he had closed down to 4/10 to Bailey Turner somewhere on this lap, and now it's back to 8/10 again.
Jeff Wright rounds turn number 11. He's got one more corner to go. This will be his 3rd win this season. Will launch him straight into the championship picture. And the road course ace, Jeff Wright, returns to victory lane in wine country in Sonoma, California. Jeff Wright wins at Sonoma Raceway. For second place, AJ Stravato, 14 seconds back. Bailey Turner 3rd and Bryce Calusa 4th. No shuffling here. Unable to run each other down. Stravato 2nd. Bailey Turner 3rd. He will likely keep the points lead heading into next week's race, or actually January 2nd's race at Dover. Then Calusa 4th, as we mentioned. Jeremy Miller, great result for him. He'll stay firmly in the points picture. 5th place run for him. Ryan Carwile, 6th. Good run for him after battling through the pack late in the race. Sam Devontier 7th. Banks 8th. Adam Cabot across the line in 9th. A frustrating ending for him, I'm sure. Angelo Ronis rounds out the rest of your top 10. But the 48 car doing burnouts in the runoff. This has got to be a fun feeling.
He didn't get to race on the NASCAR track, but he went back out there anyway, because what looks better at Sonoma than a NASCAR doing burnouts at the exit of turn 4? Gets it pointed right back in the way, and that's the first time we saw any tire left on the track from this car this entire event.
He's been pretty neat and tidy so far, and looking at his season, again, we mentioned the 2 race wins that he had won. One of those was at Chicago, the other at Michigan earlier in the season. So this is his first road course win in quite some time. And it feels good, Tom. I mean, to win at a place that you sort of expect to run well, and for some, this isn't a surprise. For me, it is a little bit of one. I mean, Jeff Wright had gone through a several season lull of not really performing on the road courses like he had previously. But he left no doubt today in my mind that this is the guy you got to watch on the road courses again. And I wonder if going to the higher downforce, lower power package the last time we were at these road courses has hurt him, and having throttle control be mandatory this time is what helped this driver on a technical circuit.
I was going to say, we've updated not only the trim that these cars race in on the road courses, but a little bit of the behavior of the game itself. You know, we're in a sim game in iRacing, and throughout the changes, it looks like things may have swung away from Jeff Wright's comfort zone, and now we're fully back in it.
Doing burnouts there. Look at the teammates showing up to party as well. It's always cool to see. And 1, 2, 3. That is a cool shot right there. All right, here's a look at your race results. Top of the board, Jeff Wright in the 48. All the top 5 are chase competitors. Ryan Carwile, the first non-chase driver. Sam Devontier, Banks, Cabot, and Ronis round out the rest of your top 10. Brandon Bowers, 11th place. No other Californians in the field, at least at the front. A couple Illinoisans. The back, Caleb Weekly, Robert Gaba did not have the races that they were looking. I don't even think Gaba took the green flag, and that is correct. Neither he or David Mott Jr. took the green. But the only California kid, P3, we'll talk to him, Stravato, and the race winner, Jeff Wright, here in a few moments. We'll be right back. Back live here on Sim TV, post-race interviews. We're talking now with the third-place driver, Bailey Turner, the California kid. Hometown race for you, and a strong showing regardless. Came into the night, started in third, and finished exactly there. Did you have anything for Stravado or Wright if you got another reset, or were they just too fast?
I think I knew I had nothing for Jeff there. I knew that AJ was holding him up pretty good there on the first run, and I was thinking to myself, man, if I get by AJ, I can kind of compare my pace with Jeff on that end of that first run there, and he took off, and I was like, well, I'm going to be racing for second here all night, and the start of that second run, I was just honestly trying to save, but I knew that the longer I let Bryce stay ahead of me, the tires were going to even out, and I didn't want that to happen, so I made a little bit of an aggressive move there, and I got by him, and then just made a couple small little mistakes, and AJ was pretty much perfect there and got by me, and I tried to pressure him there for a couple laps and see if I can pressure him into a mistake, and I just couldn't match the pace. And I saw that Bryce was hanging with us, so at that point, I was just being conservative and thinking about points. The last 2 weeks, getting third place finishes and getting stage points or halfway points are important with the championship battle going on. I knew Jeff was going to be the class of the field, and AJ is always right there with him. So you got to show up every week and be ready.
So speaking of the championship points, as of now, we got Connor Horn kind of tabulating in the background. Jeff Wright closes within 2 points of you, but you will still walk away from Sonoma leading the points. We head to Dover after the new year, then Iowa, and then Atlanta. How confident are you that you can hang on to that 2-point lead, and do you feel like you're the car to beat these final 3 races?
I wouldn't say necessarily the car to beat. I feel like I have the pace to compete with AJ and Jeff, but they've been the class of the field all season. Really took me until about a quarter of the way into the season to start reeling off good finishes and getting those wins. So looking at a place like Iowa, AJ dominated there last time, and Dover, Jeff is always competitive, and so is AJ. So it's going to be a battle these next few weeks. It's definitely going to be fun. We're all teammates. We're all in the same Discord channel, so it's a little healthy, friendly competition at the end of the day.
Well, Bailey, a third place for you after running in third most of the race. That's where you'll finish. Good luck to you at the next track we're going to go to in Dover, Delaware. We'll see you after the new year. Happy holidays. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. You too. Go Sad Boys.
Moving on now to our second place finisher, AJ Stravado, who just comes up short by a little ways, 13.9 seconds. Nothing for the 48 car tonight, AJ, but you led 10 laps at the start of the event. Couldn't hold off the 48 car. He just went and lit the rear tires up and drove away. But you have to feel pretty good about how your night went. You're still a little ways back from the points lead. What do you have to do the next couple rounds to get yourself back in the championship picture after a pretty good showing in Sonoma?
I think we just got to keep on running the way we've been running. I think all season. I think we've been the most consistent just throughout the year. I think in terms of top 5s and top 10s. I know we have quite a few really good tracks coming up. I'm pretty good at Dover, Iowa. I think we won last time here, so I'm looking forward to that, as well as Atlanta. But I had a shout out to Jeff, man. He's a freaking wheel man here. I had to work my tail off for the 10 laps I was ahead of him just to even keep ahead of him, and he could have moved me a couple times, but him and Bailey are good friends of mine and obviously teammates, so obviously that's not the goal. Bump and run was, I think, the best move, and I think we all did that to each other at some point in the run. But we had pace at the beginning of the race. I just, around the 8 lap mark at the beginning of the run, I was just starting to wheel hop really, really, really bad, and it was just a matter of time, I think, before Jeff got by me. And on that restart, I just wish I was probably in third or second. I think we could have kept up with Jeff a little bit better than we did, because I was looking at some of the lap times. They weren't too far off before I kind of backed down and just settled for second. But Jeff's a goon here, man. He outruns pros here, that are in the Coke Series. So just to even out qualify him and just run with him for a while, I'm pretty proud of that, all things considering, and just how much progress I think we've made the past year on road courses. So congrats to Jeff. That was a lot of fun battling Bailey and Calusa there, I'd say, the back half of the race. And, just got to keep on digging.
AJ Stravado, second place tonight. You're third in the championship, 10 back from Bailey Turner. Good luck to you at Dover. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, brother. Great broadcast.
Appreciate it. Moving on now to Jeff Wright. Winner at Sonoma by 14 seconds. Didn't leave a lot of doubt out there on the racetrack, Jeff. That was an absolutely dominant performance. You close in within 2 points of Bailey Turner in the championship picture. We have 3 more rounds to compete. First of all, congratulations. And second of all, does this launch you straight into the middle of the championship picture? And do you feel like you can win the 2020 ORL championship?
Yeah, I think we definitely got a shot. The first race there at Talladega, 11th place, it's not a terrible finish, but when the season's only 5 races long, or the chase is only 5 races long, and you got guys as good as AJ Bailey and the rest of the chase crew. I thought it was going to be tough to overcome that, so I knew we had to perform well here at Sonoma. AJ, it was tough to pass him early on there. I feel like this layout of the track is harder to pass that than the previous model that we've raced on here in ORL. But getting the win here, I mean, it feels so great. This is a special place to me. I won my very first ORL race here. So I think that's 3 races at Sonoma now. So I just really enjoy this track. Honestly, I was hoping that race didn't end. I just wanted to keep going, but it was a blast. But yeah, more importantly, closing in the gap on the points. That's huge. I didn't know if this was going to be enough to overtake Bailey as the leader, but I think you said 2 points. So I'm really happy with that, and you're ready to keep on moving along here in the chase.
Well, we've got 3 rounds remaining. We're going to head next time on January 2nd to Dover, Delaware. Then we head over to Iowa. We'll complete the season at Atlanta. We've seen 2 races that I expected to be sort of flashpoints in the season. Talladega, we didn't have a single caution. And here today, I think we had 1 multi-car incident or spin. So is there a concern maybe that these next couple tracks are going to have some more chaos in them after being so calm the last few weeks?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, those tracks, that's going to be close quarters racing. Dover, it's a really fast track, but it's pretty close, tight racing there. So, yeah, definitely worried about, other things that could go wrong, because I feel like, one race that doesn't go your way, one DNF, you're probably not going to have a chance to win the championship. So, hopefully we'll go run well there. I like the tracks coming up. So I think we should be strong, but definitely, with as good as a field that we're racing here, I got to be on my A game and, make sure that there's no mistakes coming up, because one mistake, you're probably not going to win the championship.
Well, for a man with wild cherry on the side of the car, it was a calm, cool, and collected night for the 48 car. Jeff, congratulations. We'll see you at Dover in a couple weeks after the New Year. Happy holidays. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kyle. And just a quick shout out to Reggie Ortega, my spotter, doing a great job for me. I really appreciate all he does for me.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. You guys have a good one.
Take care.
With that, that's going to conclude the interviews here. A calm race for the most part. Again, I expected to see a whole lot more in the way of cars spinning, crashing, and having incidents. We had a couple drivers that didn't make it to the end. Most of the drivers were just people throwing in the towel with frustration rather than actual incidents. So with all that said, we have a long break. We come back on the 2nd. We race at the 1 mile Fighter Jets in a Cereal Bowl, Dover, Delaware. That's going to be an interesting track. There's a lot of banking there. It's very single groove. And they call it the Monster Mile for a reason. It eats up cars, spits them out. They call it the self-cleaning racetrack because of the banking on the straightaways. You crash, everyone slides to the inside. I think we're done seeing calm, cool, and collected.
Well, I think that's what stands out to me. I'm not with you every night here for ORL, Kyle, but the drivers definitely feel the pressure to be consistent, but I don't feel a lot of tension yet. And that'll be really interesting to see with 2 weeks on ice when we come back for the final 3 rounds with Connor Horde back here with you in the booth. When we get to those tracks, when does the tension between the drivers start to ramp up and become the bigger picture question, more so than the personal tension that they feel to deliver?
Well, lots to talk about, but holidays first, and after we come back from our holiday break, SimTV will have a brand new look, and it's going to sound and look a whole lot better in the 2021 season. Thanks for joining us. Happy holidays to everybody at home. We'll see you on the other side of the new year. Hopefully a year that is filled with less carnage in lots of ways. We'll see you in Dover, Delaware on January 2nd for the next round of the Outsider Racing League Championship. My name's Kyle Heyer with Tom O'Gorman. We'll see you next time on SimTV.